to serve as ceremonial president for a day, and Sheku Stevens eventually became a first executive president of the country. So we became the first republic in 1971. So we had the second republic in 1996. Of course, we heard a lot about coups and counter-coups, and the constitution was suspended. And thereafter, we had elections in 1996. That was a return to constitutionality, and the SLPP won that elections. And the UFPP was the main opposition party then in Parliament. That was the Parliament in which the APC had, 5% of 5 seats, and the SLPP was the majority. And then the TCP, which was the Democratic Center Party from Kono District, had 3 seats. It was 3 seats. And Abuya Kurma was then the leader of the TCP. But that's just an aside, by way of introducing the First Republic, and then we having a Second Republic in 1996. And then we had the first Parliament of the Second Republic in 1996, the second Parliament of the Second Republic in 2002, and now we are in the 6th Parliament of the Second Republic in 2023. So members of Parliament are expected to make laws for the peace, security, and good governance of the Republic of Sierra Leone. And that one is underscored in Section 73, subsection 3 of Act number 6 of the 1991 Constitution. But then the powers to make laws for the Republic of Sierra Leone is also restated in Section 73, subsection 2 of the said Constitution. But then let's go fast forward to Section 105. Section 105 of Act number 6 of the Constitution is saying that Parliament is the supreme legislative authority of the Republic of Sierra Leone. Of course, you must have heard about issues and when the then Vice President was sacked, and then he went to the Supreme Court to seek redress, and then the court agreed that indeed, under Section 40 of the Constitution, the President has supreme, authority. So, for the purposes of supremacy, Parliament is the supreme legislative authority of the Republic of Sierra Leone. Then if you go to Section 106, it tells you about the mode of making laws. That Parliament will exercise legislative authority through the process of bills passed by Parliament, by members of Parliament, and it is signed into law by the President. So that is the mode of legislation in the Republic of Sierra Leone. That is what is provided for in Section 106. Of course, I need not belabor the point on representation, because representation is clear, as the Speaker himself had read it, by leave of this august body, that Section 97, paragraph A and B of the Constitution speaks volume to maintaining the dignity and image of Parliament, both in your conduct in and outside Parliament. So you are indeed the representatives of the people. So that being said, we'll move forward. But before that, before we had the 1991 multi-party constitution, because the 1978 constitution was opposed to multi-party democracy, and by way of law through a referendum, it was agreed that only one party should subsist, and that was the APC in the 1978 one-party constitution. So those in the SLPP who are politicians and they still want to be in the business of politics, they had no option but to cross carpet and do business with the APC then. But the 1978 Constitution speaks volume to one party, and that any attempt to subvert one partyism was then deemed to be a treasonable offense. So, but under the 1991 Constitution, it reintroduced multi-party democracy again. And under that, members of Parliament are not responsible for development. Development is the business of councils and that of the executive. But I don't know what you might have promised the electorate during the course of the campaigns. But that's a social contract, and it's something you would have to settle with them. But the Constitution is clear that members of Parliament are the representatives of the people, and that they must conduct themselves in a manner that befits the status of the office. But then let's go to the Local Government Act of 2004. It is clear in Section 20 of the Local Government Act of 2004 that the councils in their respective localities, they hold supreme, or they hold the highest political authority. So the councils are the highest political authorities in their localities, and as a result, they are responsible to take development to the people. So what members of parliament do is to support and facilitate development process. You do that via advocacy, you do that by engaging the constituency or the district, but development is the business of councils and that of ministries, departments, and agencies of government. Let's move forward to oversight. Oversight is clear. And the oversight is talking about Parliament holding the executive to account. But then let us focus on the microcosm of Parliament, which are the committees. The committees are the workhorses. You meet there, 16 of you, save for the Public Accounts Committee that has a membership of 11, of which the Deputy Speaker is the automatic chairman, by virtue of provisions in the standing orders. So the Deputy Speaker of Parliament chairs the Public Accounts Committee. And that committee has responsibility to look into the Auditor General's report. But then the big elephant in the room is, when is the Auditor General's report going to be debated? As soon as it is out. By way of practice and precedent, it has to be looked first by the PAC. And then the PAC will take it, to the world by way of recommendations. And members of Parliament are expected to debate it. Probably the 6th Parliament, you will make a difference to start debating the Auditor General's report. It's a question of wait and see. Section 90P speaks about the committee system in Parliament. Committees are established to look into the activities of ministries, departments, and agencies of government, and that they may make recommendations that may lead to proposals for legislations. So committees are powerful, but what they do is they recommend, and then ministries, departments, and agencies of government are responsible to implement. So Parliament makes recommendation and the executive implements, and for fear of you not being a referee and a player at the same time. So if you go forward, Section 107 is also restating that ministers may come to Parliament, ministers may present bills, ministers may answer to questions in Parliament, but they are not to take part in the vote. They will deliberate, they will make the case in the second reading, but they are not supposed to take part in the vote. And come to think of that, voting is very important, because if you look at Section 91 of the Constitution, it speaks volume about pattern of voting, majority of members present and voting. But again, when it comes to voting, are you aware that the Speaker has a casting ballot where there is a tie? The Speaker has a casting ballot. If you look at Section 91, subsection 3, it says the Speaker has a casting ballot where there is a tie. But then the Constitution is saying if the Speaker refuses to cast his ballot, then that subject is deemed to have been invalidated, is deemed to have been rejected by Parliament, because the Speaker has refused, to actually, vote on either side of the divide. So we also have to take note about that. Then I've spoken briefly about 107 and subsection 2, paragraph A and B, that ministers may come to Parliament to pilot bill, and they may be summoned to Parliament to answer to questions raised by members of Parliament. Of course, you've seen semblance of Section 112 under oversight, whereby a supplementary budget was brought to Parliament after the conduct of the general elections. The President's agenda shifted, from that of 2018 to 2023. It's talking about the big five: pit salon, human capital development, and also having an efficient and effective, public service, sector. Thank you.
Having explained the various provisions, what will make members of Parliament, particularly the members of Parliament, the 6th Parliament, ineffective in performing their duties, particularly constitutional duties?
And thank you very much. When they took and signed to the oath of office, as inscribed in Section 83 of the Constitution, they did say that they will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Sierra Leone as by law established, and that they will defend and uphold the Constitution of Sierra Leone during the course of discharging their duties and as members of Parliament. And part of the parliamentary prayers is saying that, if I may give an excerpt, is that you have to, put aside all private interests, prejudices, and partial affections. They are the representatives of the people. If they are to be effective, it's on the day of oath taking. Were you not given copies of the standing orders on the Constitution?
Yes, they were.
Take, good note of that and read it. Digest it copiously, and it will make you an effective MP. Because once you understand provisions in the Constitution and the rules of procedures, say for example, there's an increment on tax and without recourse to Parliament. You may raise that in Parliament by calling on the Honourable Speaker and then speak on section 110, which is 1110. It says that if taxes are raised downwardly, MPs do not have problem because you are reducing the burden from the people. But if you are increasing taxes, you must come to Parliament for approval. And if you go further, 110 and subsection 2 and 3, it tells you about duty waivers or concessionary issues once they are brought. But again, let me break this to the attention of members of Parliament. If you look at section 117 of the Constitution, it talks about public debts. All loans that are accrued on behalf of the people and the Republic of Sierra Leone is contingent on the assets and the revenues of this country. So members of Parliament should be conscious when it comes to loans. You look at the lending rates and you look at the repayment and see that it is payable over time. Okay? For some, they are generational equity. And we are alive today, we take certain loans, but not be there when those loans, will be, in terms of servicing, when they will be completed. So it's a kind of generational equity. We must take note of that as well. So members of Parliament, for you to be effective, understand the standing orders. Say, for example, standing order P, the Speaker has the exclusive right to allocate seats in Parliament. Say a seat has been allocated to Honourable Tengbe, where he's seated. And Honourable Tengbe happens to move from this seat and goes over there. And if Honourable Tengbe wants to speak, a smart MP should be able to say, Honourable Tengbe, you are not properly seated. That is not your assigned seat. And the Honourable member will say, Mr. Speaker, SO34 talks about, points of order. Mr. Speaker, SO34 points of order. And Mr. Speaker would ask, on what order are you standing? And then the honourable members will then draw the Speaker's attention to SOP, which is allocation of seat, that the member is not seated on his, allocated seat. That is SOP. It talks about allocation of seat. We can intersperse it with the language. SO2, if members are saying SO2, is just speaking a language in Parliament that is not the official language. Because the Constitution is clear. In section 90 of the Constitution say, English shall be the official language of the House. So if you want to say something other than English, you draw the Speaker's attention to SO2. And once you say it in a language that you best understand, be prepared to paraphrase in English so that other members who do not understand that, and say, for example, an MP from Kono will say, Mr. Speaker, you know what that means? And you should be able to tell the General House that you are sending the general greetings, to the general membership of the House.